Hello and welcome to Papa's Rwanda show. I am Angel, your host, and today we are going to talk about the importance of mental health and raising mentally healthy children. And today we are joined by a very beautiful guest, very beautiful. She's a registered clinical counselor, and she brings valued personal and professional background in mental health. Chantal Mudahogora, welcome to Papa's Rwanda show.
Thank you, Angel. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yes.
You look beautiful as always.
Thank you. Thank you. We are so happy to have you here.
Yes. It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay. If I may ask, why of all professional, a counselor? Why did you choose to be a counselor?
Wow, that's a long story in itself.
We are interested, we want to know.
I come from a very different background where I have a bachelor degree in business and administration. That back in the days before you were born.
Yes.
So about 24 years ago, I moved to Canada. A few years after the genocide, after I survived the genocide. And as you know, when you go to Western world, sometimes they don't really take your experience or recognize your credentials. So you have to start over. So I was thinking I did not want to continue in business and administration, which I had the bachelor degree in. Plus, you have to look for something which will give you a job as fast as possible. So that's why, being a genocide survivor, I wanted to understand myself and my own mental state, but also I wanted to be able to help my people later on. So I started going to having a bachelor degree in psychotherapy, and then I had a master's degree in psychotherapy. So basically, my motives were more of understanding the psychology of survivors, the psychology of Rwandans in general, and that curiosity to know myself and my own children, which I have been specializing in, the trauma for children. So yeah, those are my motives in brief.
Yeah, I mean, based on what you just said, I understand now that you have like some knowledge on mental health.
Yes, I do. I've been in this career, it's going to be 20 years, but I practiced mainly in Canada, so I came home. I'm still transitioning. I would like to relocate fully, but then COVID has been messing up my plans. Like anyone else, we all been trying to readjust.
Yes.
So, but my my long-term goal is to relocate to Rwanda fully. So I keep still going back and forth, but my aim is to relocate fully.
Yes, and you are welcome here.
Thank you.
Yes, your help will be of great use, because here in Rwanda, we don't really understand mental health and what is mental health, that we even need it. Few people, there's a lot of stigma around mental health. So we would like to know, what is mental health to you, according to you?
Yes, the key word is according to me, because when you ask people
Yes.
about mental health, everyone will have a different different meaning. There's different meanings in the dictionary, but according to me, mental health is a mental state. We have to. I'm glad you're talking about mental health, because most of people talk about mental illnesses. So it's a mental state where you feel at peace in your body, whether emotionally, your mind, the way the mind works, and feel good in your body. In mental health, we see some mental illnesses. We also see mental disorders. But when we talk about a healthy brain, we are talking about someone who is balanced. You can go through emotional, you can go through stress, you can go through other things, but as long as you are balanced in the way you process the situation you're going through, because life is stressful as it is, but it depends on how we respond to the stress. So as long as you are coping well we talk about good mental health. When you start being bothered or stressed about the situation, that's when you look for help.
Yes. Wow, I mean, that is interesting. That is very deep. I would like to ask you about like mind development. You see, when like a child is developing, the brain starts developing as well. And they say that most of the mental illnesses or problems start at that tender age. Like the toddler, as grows up, the mind is also developing. What is the linkage between mental health and the way the growth of the child?
Well, that's a deep question which requires an interview in itself. You're talking about a toddler, but I will talk about the child in the womb. When you start a fetus in the womb of mother.
Yeah.
Yes. At some stage of the pregnancy, the brain develops to the point it starts accumulating some information, even at that stage. So, and this is very important for us to know, because I think we, as Rwandans and Africans, the awareness about mental health, we have been having a different perception about mental health, whether it's culturally or religiously, faith-based. Like there are things which has been interfering with psychology in our context as Africans and Rwandans specifically. Now, a child starts accumulating some information at the very early stage of the pregnancy, and then they will continue to accumulate. And then when you are a toddler and you think you don't know anything about or around your environment, you can interpret what is happening. Your brain still registered some information. Now, to know how much the child has registered, it's hard to know until maybe they become aware, 5 years and forward. It's very important not to minimize what the children share with the parents, because sometimes they will have some behaviors. Maybe, let's say a mother. For a full disclosure, let me give you my example. I became pregnant in 1995, early 95, right after the genocide.
Yes.
Not only I have lost so many people and I have barely survived myself, but also there was a lot of insecurities which was still going on, even though the genocide have been stopped. But we still have bad guys around the corner who could harm you, from the former perpetrators of the genocide. We had bombs everywhere, where we have this demining group of military which was demining the whole country. We had grenades still blowing up. We had like the insecurity was still there.
Yes.
Now, when the baby was in the womb, my second born, he will, every time there's shooting or there's a sound of something heavy which blows up, he will move.
And they say that the baby can feel it.
Yes, he will move and he will jump and he will not be unsettled. Such child, not everybody, but such child will be born with excessive fear and some fear which is not normal.
Yes, with a particular mental
panicking
health,
and being to the extreme. Maybe if the thunder blows up, they will run into under the bed. Like they will have these behaviors they are born with, but the parents won't know. And if they have siblings, other siblings will be quite normal, but this particular child will have excessive fear. So it's important for the
attacks, things like that.
That comes later, but this kid, the parents can't always blame the kid, say, why are you always fearful? Why are you always crying? Why always? So when we blame them, we are actually making things worse, because these kids don't have the information why they're reacting in a certain way.
Even the parents, they don't know where that feeling is originating from.
No, they don't. And they think maybe the child is exaggerating, overreacting, and we blame them rather than just being there for them. So in that particular case, the child the information that the brain has registered is embedded somewhere else that the child can't reach that information. So basically, your age, you are reacting over things you accumulated during pregnancy and when you are a toddler, but you don't even know why you are reacting.
Is it like the subconscious? They say they have a conscious mind, the subconscious mind.
Well,
yeah,
that's what we call it, just for the lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But usually our brain has different functions, different parts. So this particular information is stored in a place where we call limbic system. Usually when let's say you survived an accident as an adult, a car accident. Every time when someone breaks, you will be shocked. React because you've seen, and what you see and other triggers as an adult, they are here in our frontal lobe.
Yes.
Here in the front. But as a child, they don't have information of that trauma. Maybe mom was sad when she was pregnant and she cried a lot. The child will be born with some of the symptoms, but then they don't know why they feel the way they feel. They will react, but they don't have an idea. They don't have the senses to recognize, why am I fearful, or am I always sad, or why am I always reacting this way? In the end, actually, the child will end up depressed because your body is reacting without your control.
Yes.
Now, as an adult, like when I'm dealing with the adult people who have been traumatized, I deal with the senses, 5 senses: what they've seen, what they've heard, what are the triggers? Why can't you sleep? Because when I close my eyes, I start seeing some images and they bother me, I can't sleep. That child has no clue.
Yes.
Now, growing up, they will start reacting and they lose control of the body. Because the limbic system, it's like an alarm system where when something triggers the information stored there, the body will react.
Yeah.
But when the body reacts, the child has no control. That's where comes the panic attacks you were talking about. You start having fear, anxiety, and then the stress of losing control of your body becomes even worse. Now you keep hiking into stress, depression, anxiety attacks, and then panic attacks, and so forth. Now, speaking of child development, when a child is developing, they go through stages. There are things they do because of their personality. They are self-discovering themselves. You know, a baby will always say, mine, mine, mine. Everything's theirs. Even the car in the compound is theirs. The house is theirs. Everything, the chair, everything is theirs.
Yes.
So that's me starting developing my character, my personality, because that's a nature. We are possessive people. Mm-hmm. Now, that developing stage will continue to carry on. So the way we discipline our children and the way we try to tell them to be like us, it's not always the best, because always there's what child has in their brain that we don't have access to, and they're not aware of them too. So it's always to be protective, but it's even better to learn about your child. Why do they do this? And if you don't know, if some stuff are not known to you, you have no awareness, it's always important to consult with an expert in mental health. Because I know, like in North America, in Canada, for example, every office, where every family has a family doctor. And at the family doctor, there's always a social worker or a therapist of some sort.
Yes.
Which checked, as you go for your physical checkup every year, you also check your mental status. If a young girl, young man going through exams, stressful time at school, they always go get checked. Fear, anxiety, not being prepared, not being organized, because also there are some disorders that people have. They could be mild, they don't prevent it function. Like when I'm seeing kids in schools today, the good thing I heard that there's a program from the Ministry of Health that they're trying to work on it, to put counselors in schools.
Yes.
Because kids go through a lot, but then nobody knows why they are suffering. Their marks, their grades starts dropping, and no one understands why.
Yeah, they can spot there's a difference, but they don't know where the problem is.
The kids start withdrawing, and then the school will write notes to the parents, and then nobody really does. And sometimes kids will have conditions which are not a problem, not a disease, maybe a disorder, but they can't fit really in a school system.
Yes.
Meaning that their learning capacity is different from the standard.
Yeah,
the standard.
Yeah.
So for these kids, they suffer. They suffer in the school systems because, like, for example, I'm thinking about a child who has, or a student who has ADHD, OCD, I don't know if you know those things, mild autism. They are not stupid. They are very smart, actually. Even the gifted kids who are very smart, they can't fit in a class. I don't know if you know about Albert Einstein. He was dismissed from school for many, many times. They even told him he will never learn. But it's because his capacity, his learning ability or capacity was beyond what was in the standard classroom. So those kids, even in our classrooms, they suffer. If you have OCD and you have these rituals that you have to do before you go in a class, or before you sit down, or before you eat. Maybe your lunch will take longer, much longer than others, because you have these rituals you have to go to. Going to the bathroom may take longer than other kids, but you have this pressure.
The problem is that people, they don't know, they can't see the difference.
The awareness.
It's very hard, the awareness.
Yeah.
It's very hard. They just dismiss you, go, you are not like others, instead of identifying the problem and
I think that's what the Ministry of Health is trying to do in schools, and also putting a counselor or a clinician, psychological counselor in the schools to detect those issues, or also maybe raising awareness to teachers and parents to be able to detect those differences early on. Because if you have a child who has ADHD, usually they are actually very smart, but they can't concentrate. You can't make them sit down and do math. But they have other ways, other styles of being taught. And then the answer, if they have low marks, the answer will be to make them redo the year. At that point, you have lost the child. Why? Because they get frustrated, because they have learned those things, but the only thing they couldn't concentrate to put things together, they need extra support. Now, if you allow this kid to redo the year, they will be frustrated, they will be bored, because they have already gone through the material, and also the frustration, because they're not stupid. They are smart academically. They have no issues. It's the learning style. Their learning style is different from the whole classroom. So they get marginalized, and they start losing their self-esteem, and they start even not following, because that's not where they belong.
The challenge is people to understand.
It's the awareness.
To understand the awareness of it, and then learn how they can help them more, even better. Without telling this child, oh, you are stupid, you can't learn in class.
And comparing them with others, with their siblings.
Because many children are actually dropping out of school because of that problem.
Which is very sad.
Which is very sad. If you just joined us, we are here with Chantal, talking about the importance of mental health and raising mental healthy children who are mentally healthy. Children who are mentally healthy is very important. So you talked about parents not identifying these conditions on their children. They think they are overreacting. How can a parent identify a child who has a mental health condition or illness or disorder?
It depends on the awareness they have. Usually, in our context of Rwandans, like people of my age or who are older than me, the way we were brought up is to be challenged by parents. they beat you, they scream at you, you're so
Thank you.
stupid, you will never make it, and so forth. The
Which is very bad.
The disciplinary measures were there, I guess because we did not have the awareness that you guys have nowadays.
Yeah.
We succumbed to the pressure, and you had to swallow your own challenges to satisfy the parents. It's very traumatizing, actually. I remember, not me, but when I was growing up, some kids would be beaten because they were left-handed. Until they change, they shift. And that has to do with their brain. It's the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, which one is dominant. But they will beat them until they switch to the right. That's a torture, and it is very traumatizing.
Yes.
So how the parents do recognize, it's very challenging, because even the school system, we are not there yet where the teachers can recognize immediately and pick up, because usually these kids will challenge you. They will be good one day, they go on and off.
Yeah.
They will be good one day, they will, like, especially when you pick their interest. When they have interest, they will pick up fast and they will do wonders and they will have good marks, but then they switch on and off. Tomorrow, they will be low marks. So it's hard to know if you're not an expert. So I think the parents need to be involved in their children's school system. I understand some of the parents even don't have the ability because they did not have the same level of education. They can't support. Now I hear that there are teachers who can give extra assistance to the kids. So there are a number of things which can be done, but most importantly is to observe the child and know them.
Observation.
Observation, and know them, get to recognize them. Pick up those rituals. Pick up what makes them upset. What really sets them off. What are they having this tantrum where they become agitated and screaming? And also recognize that kids also suffer. Not only the things I told you that they pick up from the mother's womb and when they are toddlers, but they also suffer from depression. As young as 4 years old, like my youngest client has 4 years old.
Suffering from depression.
Depression and suicidal thoughts. Wow. So we have also to recognize that those kids also suffer. We always tend to believe that, oh, kids know nothing. I see it today when with the kids who survived the genocide at a very young age, where parents will say, oh, well, they were not even there, or they were not even aware of what was going on, which is not true, because kids will pick up. Even they will become the reservoir of the parents' emotions. So we can't minimize what they know and what they fear, because it's very hard for them when they feel not okay and then they get dismissed. That becomes even a double torture for them. I see young adults in the clinic today where kids tell me, I've been going through these panic attacks the whole night, I can't sleep, I have no appetite, I have no energy, but I can't even talk to my parents. And that's very sad. That's very sad when kids suffer in isolation. They go through a lot. They break up with boyfriends and they become sad, but the boyfriend, having a boyfriend itself, it's not allowed, so you hide it from the parents. Then when you broke up, you suffer alone. And sometimes parents are putting pressure. Oh, why can't you get up? Why don't you go to the sports? Why can't you do this? Why are you not going to school? Why, like they add on pressure, and yeah. So
the child ends up being frustrated.
Not only frustrated, they become suicidal, they self-harm, they go into addiction because they are trying to ease their emotional pain and go into drugs or alcohol because they're trying to relax themselves. But then as you take any drug or any alcohol, because your mind is overwhelmed, then you build resistance. When you build the resistance, then you become addicted. So it starts like very slowly. The other thing is these kids who are growing up in dysfunctional families where there's a lot of violence, domestic violence, where there's a lot of family dynamics of some sort, they suffer too, because they get some insecurities and some fear and some uncertainty. at a very young age, and then it keeps building up. So I'm escaping to go into for human development for you to understand, because kids also go through stages of self-discovery, self-identification, knowing who they are, knowing who is surrounding them. And then if they don't have all parents present, for example, I know life can be very stressful. Sometimes dad is away or comes home late. They never have a chance to be there for them. They just meet when there is a report from school. So
Yeah.
to discipline you, saying you need more grades, you need to improve your grades. But at the same time, we need that friendship between parents and children.
Yes, deep. That is very deep. So Chantal, can you help us, our audience and as well other parents, understand the importance of raising a healthy child? Because some parents don't even understand the importance of for them observing their child, following up school to see whether this child has a good mental health. Can you help us understand raising a mentally healthy child, the importance of it in our community?
Well, a few parents are now, because some understands mental health. Some are raising their children the way they would have been, the way your parents raised you. That's the way you will raise your children. And this middle generation, they were raised differently from what the kids nowadays are looking for, because they are on social media. They are aware of certain things that actually we never knew about before that. So how do parents get awareness? It's really very hard. It depends of what each parent know. If you know about mental health, if you know about your own socio-economical environment, if you know, it depends. It depends of who knows what. Because usually building relationship with your child, taking them out, have a discussion, this dinner table discussion, getting to know them, because they also develop their characters very young, at a very early age. So you raise them wanting them to be like you, but then they have their own personality and their own character. Obviously, you will crush. They may listen to you because you are a father or a mother, and they are fearful, but they also have their own way of thinking and what they sense in their feelings. What has been the context in our communities is that most of the time parents will interact with their children just to punish them when they have done something wrong. But they don't see you in a good mood to be able to joke with you, to get out of, just play together, just having fun together. So it's hard when the kids know daddy just when he's angry, and they don't know daddy when he's happy. So when you have to punish them when they have done something wrong, they have broken TV remote control or whatever something. So we need to interact with them in a very good way so we can get to know them and we can talk to them in a decent way. Because punishing measurements like beating up and other things, they're not always the answer. They actually create some rebellious in the kids. They will get used to it. Or I will do it, I will climb the tree, dad will beat me and that's okay. So they know they have already built some immunity and they become insensitive to that. So the question is very wide because it depends of family by family to get to know your child and to get to interact with them, play with them, take them out, just go for a drive or go for a walk, or even having them, let's say in a rural area where parents work in the field, you can still interact with your kids in a very positive way, like walking to wherever at the center, you know. So yeah, you can always build these memories, good memories to your kids, because at the end of the day, what makes them their memories from the parents. So that's what will help them to help their own children. Mm. Mm.
Thank you so much. That is very deep. Now is Harvest Time. Harvest Time features stories of agents of transformation whose life purposes have changed and transformed their community. Here is a story of one of Papa's Rwanda beneficiaries. Take a look and we'll come right after.
Nitwa Mukamazimaka Jeannette. Ntabwo rero umwuga wo kujya mu muhanda no kuba indaya cyangwa no gukora n'ibindi byose nakoze. Umbajije uburaya ariko hari n'ibindi nakoze. Nacuruje kanyanga, nacuruje urumogi. Nabigiyemo rero atari uko ari byo nahisemo. Navutse ndi umwana w'imfura kwa papa. Ariko nkura nisanga mama na papa batabana. Ariko kumenya ubwenge kwanjye, menya ubwenge nzi ko mama wanjye atabaho. Ariko nza kumenya ko burya mama hari. Menya amakuru ko mama yantaye mfite amezi ana kwa papa. Urumva narezwe mu buryo butandukanye. Ariko nza kumenya ubwenge ngewe nderwa na mama wacu. Mama wacu nawaza kwishakira. Nderwa kwa marume. Kwa marume naho biza kunanirana asubira kwa mama wacu. Nza kugaruka nabwo biranga, nza kugaruka iwacu kwa papa aho mvuka. Maze kugera kwa papa bazanye umugore. Azanye umugore papa abaranyanze. Yongera na rimwe kumva ko ndi umwana we. Papa mfite imyaka 9 niba atari 10. Yanyubakiye inzu mu rugo iwe. Umwana w'imyaka 10. Ako kazu ntazabonamo ibyo kurya, atazamereza ibyo kurya, batazateka ngo bangaburire, hahandi ngewe nzajya nihahira. Umwana w'imyaka 10. Ubwo niho natangiriye uburara. Kugira ngo nge mbone uko ndya, nge mbone uko mbaho, nge mbone uko narya, niho natangiye kujya mpura n'utwana tw'uduhungu. Kudusore dushoboye gukora amafaranga. Mba muri ubwo buzima mbukuriramo. Ngize imyaka 14 mbangize noneho mbayo agakobwa k'inkumi. Mbangize ikibazo cyo kubuzima noneho mu buryo busanzwe. Kubona umwenda ni buri bushoboke, ko nibyo nambara ni biri bushoboke. Hafa aho hari akana k'agahungu k'agasore kandutaho, yaranduta. Akanzanira utuntu two kurya, kanzanira ibintu byo kwambara. Ngaho uburaya bwatangiriye mu myaka ingana gutyo. 14 mbashatse umugabo. Urumva ntabwo namushatse kubera ko mukunda. Nagiraga ndebe ko nabona ahantu ho kuba, nabona ahantu ho kuryama. Numvaga nta nicyo bikinambwiye no kuba nabona kurara mu nzu gusa. Mbu umunyamibabaro w'umunyamarira gusa. Nta kindi cyari kinuza. Nari mfite mama, nari mfite papa. Kandi muri icyo gihe ntabwo papa yari umukene kuko icyo gihe yari responsable. Bari responsable bakera bari bakomeye. Nta kibazo yari afite, ntabwo yari umukene. Noneho biba ngombwa ko wa mugabo nshatse ashaka kuza i Kigali. Ashatse kuza i Kigali nge ntaranga muntu nari mfite. Tujye kureba iranga muntu kwa papa tumbwira ati ndashaka iranga muntu, tumwana imyaka 14 sindi bumuhiranga muntu guteze. Dushakisha uburyo tugenda ahi wabo kwa mama bavukaga, tujya ahantu hari muri Gisuma kuko nge mvuka muri Nyamasheke. Dushaka yiranga muntu. Ntanga amafaranga 2000 ndabyibuka n'ibyo umugabo wanjye yatanze. Banyongerera imyaka muri 14 banyandikira ko mfite imyaka 20. Banyongera urumva imyaka banyongeraho kuningana. Yanga muntu nzi Kigali. Ngeze i Kigali ntwite, ubwo nari ngize imyaka 15. Ngize 15 ntwite naje mu mezi mo hagati yo mu kwa 10 na 3. Nari ntwite ndankuru 9 nari mfite umwana w'uruhinja, umugabo barapfuye. Ngize imyaka 16. Ubwo niho napfakari. Muri 16 ubwo urumva ko narindi umwana. Nta muntu nzi Kigali, ntawo ndeba, ntawo ndi butakire, sinzasubira iwacu. Papa wanyubakiye iyo nzu, akanyirukana kumugaragara kantekesha inkono ndi uruhinja. Umubyeyi mama wambya utarageze uza kundeba, imibabaro sinari busubira icyango. Nta nitiki nari mfite. Nari metse umwana w'uruhinja w'umukobwa. Ndamuheka mubanamo gutyo muri ubwo buzima. Mbi Kigali nshakisha ubuzima. Umaye 1000 ubwo ni ubwo buraya turi buryamane, umaye 2 turi buryamane, umaye ungaburiye ibyo byonyine. Ubwo buraya burakomeza. Ngize imyaka 20 n'itanu mba ndashatse undi mugabo tubyaranye abana 3. Akankubita saa 6 ari mugoro, akankubita ntwita, akankubita metse undi mwana. Nawe ntitwagirana ubuzima. mu munyamibabaro iteye ubwoba. Mu myaka igeze muri 30 wa mugabo nawe apfa mfite abandi bana 3. Ubwo ngize abana 4. Muri ba bana 4 bigeze igihe cyo gutekereza ko ba bana 4 bagomba kujya ku ishuri. Nkagira igikomere cyuko ngewe nigeze ngera ku ishuri, ariko nkavuga ngo abana banje baziga. Aho rero nibwo nimbikiye umwuga w'uburaya. Umwuga w'uburaya utagaragara sinakubwira ngo naje aha mu muhanda abantu barambona ngo muri aho uko nagiraga umwuga w'uburaya nibura utari no ku Karubanda ngo ngumenye ko ndi indaya. Nari indaya aho mu gafurifuri. Umwana ageze igihe cyo kujya ku ishuri niga gucuruza akanyanga rero. Niga gucuruza akanyanga nyikurana n'uburaya ndayicuruza bugezeho baza kumfunga. Igihe kigeza kugeraho kanyanga ndayirika. Ntangira gucuruza muri restaurant. Nshinze restaurant ngacuruza ibiryo, nkabona ibiryo ndi gucuruza nta mafaranga azavamo yo kwishyura inzu, nta mafaranga azavamo yo gutunga abana, mba ncuruje urumogi. Ncuruza urumogi igihe kinini nkora muri restaurant nyibamo. Ukambwira atari ko mawuja unshirireho ikijumba kinini. Ikijumba kinini rero nago cyabaga ari kinini. Ahuko ni kakantu nyine na kaburi. Nkaba nzi ko ari wa wundi ndi bumuhereza isahani n'akaburi munsi, nyine muhereza isahani gutya, ariko hari cyo nateruranyemo nkamuhereza akaza kunyishyurira hamwe amafaranga. Nta muntu wari bumenye ko ncuruza urumogi. Ariko mu byukuri nacuruza urumogi rungira igihe kinini, rungira imbata, mbibamo ngacajeka, nza gushaka uburyo bwo kubyihana birananira. Igihe kiza kugera rero mbivamo ndabireka, ariko sigarana igikomere cyo gushanja abagabo. Icyo kirananira gushaka umugabo. None hatwananiranywa, ntabwo nzi nyirawe yabashaka barashyingiriwe muri rusengero, sinzi uko byagenze, ariko tukabana. Noneho nza kugeraho mbona byabaye igikomere mu bana, bamaze kuba inkumi, bamaze kuba abasore, nabo bibateye ipfumu. Noneho cya kintu cyo muri nge cyo kumva akababaro kaje muri nge, nangiye kumva bitangiye kurema mu bana banje, mbibonamo nk'ikindi kintu. Ariko muri aho Papas Rwanda iziye batwigishije ibintu byo guhinduka burundu, kandi ugahinduka burundu wahindutse wese. Nibwo ninjiye mu bintu bya Papas Rwanda, mbijyamo bambwira itsinda uko rikora, bambwira uko bimeze, bambwira icyo umushinga ugamije guhindura abandi. No bavuze guhinduka no guhindura abandi, nsanga ntabwo ndi buhindura abandi, kandi hari akantu mbitse, hari ikintu mbanamo nacyo. Niba nshobora kubwira umuntu ngo nave mu buraya, ariko ngewe hari undi mugabo w'umuntu mfite, ntabwo biri bukundi. Ndavuga ngo ibi bintu ndabiretse, ndashaka ndabiretse burundu, ndabiretse. Noneho mbaye umuyobozi w'iri tsinda, kandi ngiye guhindura abantu, ngiye guhindura abandi. Noneho mbaye umuvuga butumwa nyawe, mbaye umuntu ushaka gukorera Imana nyabyo, mpita mpinduka burundu. Uyu mwanya ndi serious, narahindutse bihagije. Noneho hari ikintu Papas Rwanda rero yakoze cyo kuntega amatwi. Mvuga buri gikomere cyose nagize, ibintu byose byansikamije, ibintu byose byangize imbata, ibintu buri hari ukuntu ikintu kikugira imbata, ariko yubonye uburyo bwo kukivuga. None ukagira amahirwe yo kumona gutega amatwi, akumva ikintu uri kuvuga. Biriya bintu biraruhura, binabohora umuntu mu mutima. Aka kanya magaza aha, aka kanya umbona aha, aka kanya buri muntu wese anyumve ndi Jeannette wakijijwe, ndi Jeannette wahindutse, ndi Jeannette uri gukangurira abandi kuva mu byo barimo, ndi Jeannette uri gukangurira indaya. Hari izisambaniriwe ngewe mu nzu batazi, hariho ibintu byinshi byo gukora abana bakiga, hari ibintu byinshi byo gukora abana bakabaho, hari ibintu byinshi byo gukora abana bakambara neza. Ndi umuhamya wo guhamya ko abana banje nta kibazo bafite, kandi aho batagifite ikibazo nahangana narekeye n'ibibiri.
Welcome back. So this part, we call them parts.
What is it?
PAT is Purposeful Agents of Transformation.
Oh.
These are the people who have gone through addiction, drug addiction, mental health problems, and now that they are healed from Papas Rwanda, they go out to help others. According to you, on a professional level, do you think this person can, the mental health state is good enough to help others?
Absolutely. Drug and any type of addiction can heal. Actually, can be preventable too.
Yeah.
I always talk about prevention more than anything else because there's nobody who gets up in the morning and gets into drug addiction. It comes gradually and progressively. So now, yes, they can heal and they can be good ambassadors for other people who are still using. So it's a great job actually Purpose Rwanda is doing and other initiatives around in the community, because we don't have to have so many people in drugs or into addiction. Because at the end of the day, when we see addiction or drugs or any other behaviors of any form, also I should say that there are other people who are addicted to other things. Maybe we don't see them,
yes,
or they don't even recognize them. But the drugs and the alcohol has become more of high prevalence. So what you do is to try to help people not to get there in the first place. Because by the time they become addicted, yes, they can be treated, they can go to rehab, they can be rehabilitated, but we can also prevent those things to happen. And they can contribute to the society. They are not, we tend to label people of a drug addiction, PTSD, abahahamutse, we tend to label people, and it is not okay.
and we think they are unable to help others.
They are crazy people. We don't have to label people. Any mental health illness can be either cured or it can be managed. We have some chronic diseases like bipolar, people who have mental deficiency, schizophrenia, and other chronic illnesses, but they can be maintained. They can be managed with medication. They can function like anyone else. They can go to school. They can work. They can contribute to the society. Even the former drug addicted people, people who used to use being addicted, they can still perform and contribute to the society. We don't have to label them. As we victimize them, as we make them vulnerable, more we tend to send them off again to use.
Yes.
They need the community, the family, what I call care, partners in care, to be able to surround them and help them out.
It's the other stigma around. They think this person, once you use this drug, heroin, you are unable to fit in the society, you are unable to function.
No,
So, yeah.
Some of the drugs have long-term effects. So we need, yes, to help them to stop using, but also they have to go through rehab to be able to fix other things. Some people start being forgetful or having gaps in the thinking. They can't concentrate or focus. So as we help them to stop using, but also we have to rehabilitate what has been lost. Also, when it comes to drug, like any behaviors in mental health, anything we see, it is always a tip of iceberg. Whether it's suicidal thoughts, self-harm, addiction, and other things, it's always a tip of iceberg. Anger management, or even people who become agitated and violent, it's a tip of iceberg. We always have to look what is underneath.
Underneath.
Because there's always something which is pushing someone to behave a certain way. So until you know what is going underneath, that's when you can help people to heal. For example, if someone goes to rehab, yes, they may help you to stop drinking or using drugs. But if you don't go to therapy to know why you ended up there in the first place, what was the issue which took you to use, then the person, it's most likely that they will relapse.
Yes, deep. As we wind up, Chantal, can you please advise parents who are suffering, because I would say suffering because it's the agony really to see a child going through a mental health problem and you can't help them, and most of the parents, they don't know, they don't understand, there's no awareness of these mental health illnesses and disorders. Can you advise them, like a parent whose child is going through a mental health problem? What is your advice to them?
is to seek help. To seek help with professionals. It's very hard for someone who is in a full addiction to withdraw themselves and stop it. It's very hard. Some people do, very rarely, but usually you need someone to help you out.
Extra help.
Extra help. And sometimes people, not only in drugs, people in mental health in general may not even, the person who is suffering may be the last one to recognize their issues. And that is justified by the way the neurons transfers the message to the rest of the body and what had been blocked. In trauma healing, actually, we have, PTSD is another beast in itself, where we have these spots of fragmentation, yes, where you need someone to help you to mend them together. So my recommendation or my advice is always seek help. If you don't understand behavior or changes, a child who has been very active, going to sports and being active in the community, socializing, all of a sudden they withdraw and stay in their room on their computer. That's a warning sign. So you have always to watch those changes in kids' behaviors. You may not understand, but you observe what have been changing. They don't listen as they used to. They are changing behaviors. They are not talking to you like before. They are like withdrawing from friends. So those things, those changes in the behaviors are always warning signs, which may help us to understand where the child is coming from. Sometimes the person may not even want to go to therapy, but I always tell people it's important for the family to go to therapy to be able to accommodate the person who is suffering. That works too. So the idea is to say, if you don't understand, seek help. And I think the Ministry of Health has done a good job of decentralizing services even at the healthcare centers level, where some have already a clinical psychologist who can help. The district hospitals, they all have a psychiatry department, and also there are some private clinics that people can use. So I think help is there, but we have to get into these ideas of seeking help. You may have symptoms that you don't even know why you are reacting. People may feel numbness or dizzy. They go to the doctors, they do a blood work, they do CT scan, they do MRI, but they can't find any disease. So when all those symptoms are not justified, most of the time we look into psychological part, because we have these illnesses that we call psychosomatization. That's where the brain is so overwhelmed and it starts speeding over your body. You have a backache, back problem, stomach problem, migraines, neck issues, like shoulders, pain in your breast. Like you have pains all over the place, but no doctor can detect what it is. There's no diagnosis to this thing. Most of the time we look into psychologist issues or psychiatrist issues, because that's what the brain does. It will spill over your body, and then you have these pains that are not justified, and they can't find in testing your blood and everything else. So it's always important to check, to get checked, and then make sure that as your body is healthy, also look if your mental is healthy.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much for honoring our invite. It has been such a very delightful and interesting conversation with you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you. And I hope that you will come back if we need be.
Absolutely, Angel. Anytime.
Yes.
You know how to reach me.
Thank you. So there you have it, parents. It's very important to know and understand the mental health state or condition of your child. So observe, interact, be involved in the school programs of your child to help them, so that you will be able to raise them better, to raise healthy children. So thank you for your attention, and we hope to have you next week. And this was Angel, your host.